The donor advised fund, conceptually, if you're not familiar with a donor advised fund, I want to make it easy for you to kind of understand how a donor advised fund works. So we like to call it the 3Gs. And these are the G's that you need to know to understand how a donor advised fund works. So the first G is give. I mentioned we are a 501c3 at Fidelity Charitable, as are many of the other donor advised funds in the country. You give to that donor advised fund. It's a tax deductible contribution, again, because we're a 501c3. And theoretically, it's the same as if you made that gift to a charity that you love, a church, a school, a synagogue, a hospital, your alma mater. These are all charities that you would receive a tax deduction for. Same thing with the donor advised fund. I like to just use round numbers to make it easy. $100,000 is a lot of money, but let's just say you put $100,000 in the donor advised fund. Your tax deduction would be based on that $100,000 gift or whatever you put in the donor advised fund in that calendar year. So if you put that $100,000 in 2025, you're receiving a tax deduction for that calendar year. The nice thing about the donor advised fund is, as that $100,000 sits in the account waiting to be granted out, those contributions can be invested. So there are a couple of ways they can be invested. If it's an amount less than $100,000, you would be limited to our investment pools, which if you have a 401k, they might look like your 401k investment choices. If it's over $100,000, it's great because Rory and his firm can invest Rory can manage the assets and put together a custom investment portfolio. So you're not just limited to our investment pools. So we love it when the advisor is able to give professional money management as opposed to just our pools, but they're both great. And then the last G is grant. So give, grow, grant. And this is the part we love to talk about. This is when you can make grants out the door to the causes and the charities that you feel strongly about. So I mentioned the example of logging on like you're using an online bank account, whether that's a PC or whether that's through the app. You would be able to look up the charities that you care about, and this is once you have an account. Look up that charity, select make a grant, type in the amount that you want to give, and we have to do our due diligence. We have to make sure it's a legitimate charity. They're in good standing with the IRS. But the idea is, within a day, sometimes 2 weeks if we have to do our due diligence, but somewhere in between there, that charity is going to receive a check or wire from your donor advised fund to Fidelity Charitable.
Yeah, Glenn, just to jump in there,
Charitable.
And I appreciate the examples. I mean, I learn with examples and stories as well. Here's a nice scenario. So Vanguard Growth is an ETF that invests primarily in growth funds. It's been in our portfolios for a long time. It's received a tremendous amount of growth. Here's just an example. Several years ago, you invest $60,000 in the Vanguard Growth ETF. It's now worth $100,000. So you then give those shares to the donor advised fund. Even though you paid $60,000 for that position, it's grown to $100,000. When you contribute that to the donor advised fund, you're going to get a $100,000 deduction on that gift. Then, let's say you do that in January of this year. That gets moved into a pool. That's 80% stocks, 20% bonds, so it's diversified. That then grows from $100,000 to $115,000. Now you have $115,000 that you can disperse to 1 or 100 different charities this year, in future years, etc. So your money's still working for you. It's still growing. It just means you can give more to the charity. You're getting that donation. You're getting that tax deduction for that $100,000, even if you don't distribute all of the funds this calendar year. If you had taken that $100,000 and sold those shares, you would be paying capital gain taxes anywhere from 15 to 23, 24%. And then you're giving cash. I think far too many investors and high net worth investors are making charitable gifts with cash. Here is a way where you use your appreciated investments. You don't pay a capital gain. You move the shares into a donor advised fund. You get a full tax deduction. You then can diversify the asset, and then you distribute as you please. It's really pretty amazing. And this would be a year where that's worked extremely well, where you could have used appreciated money, put it in the donor advised fund earlier in the year. It's grown. And now the benefit is actually the benefit for charities. They're able to get more assets from you. And you can set reoccurring. So from a church perspective, I do a reoccurring gift on a weekly basis. Super easy to set up. It's a couple clicks, and then it's distributed to the church that we belong. So really neat, but just wanted to share that example to kind of help break it down.
Before we carry on, just to kind of summarize this slide, the Give, Grow, Grant. Conceptually, I want you to think of a donor advised fund. Many of you probably have either 401ks or 403bs. Maybe you have created or have contributed to 529 plans for college. What a 529 plan is to college saving, or a 401k is to retirement, you could think of a donor advised fund is that to charity or philanthropy. So we have 350,000 donors at Fidelity Charitable, something around that. $350,000 accounts. But when you give that money to Fidelity Charitable, it's a sub account, just like your 401k. You might work at a company with 5,000 employees. Your 401k is one of 5,000 sub accounts at the 401k. You're in control over how it's invested. You're in control over kind of when you take it out. At the donor advised fund level, you're in control of what you invest in, how you invest, what you grant out to, when, how much, all of those things. So conceptually, I just wanted to draw that analogy to 401ks or 529s. As I mentioned, you could name your donor advised fund whatever you want. Donor advised funds are excluded from that provision, that the QCD provision or RMD provision, where you can grant directly your RMD to charities. Washington, D.C. basically carved out donor advised funds. They want them to go directly to the end charity. So I do think it's a great thing. If you don't need your RMD or you don't want to touch your RMD, you are able to give it directly to charity. You just wouldn't want to give it directly to a donor advised fund.
So good question. So QCDs are qualified charitable distributions. You have to be over age 70 and a half, and it's where you can use the forced withdrawal from your IRAs to go directly from you to the charity. So you're going to have to go right to the charity there. You can't fund a donor advised fund with the RMD. If you did, it'd be a taxable event. So you want to just go directly to the charity. As you know, Monica runs the majority of that for our clients. Certainly feel free to reach out to us. We can help get that set up. And we do a lot of that for our clients that are over 70 and a half. So really good question.